We compare our relationship to the imaginary perfect relationship. And this is where fairy tales and Hollywood romance and things like that can actually be toxic to our partnership because the perfect partnership doesn't exist. I know so many happy couples, but everybody has a hard time. I don't know any couple that's been together longer than 3 years that hasn't had some kind of crisis, some kind of epic challenge, be it sexual, relational, emotional. So I really believe in doing regular practices to cultivate your sexual capacity. I think one of the best erotic rituals is, I'm Layla Martin, and this is going to be a special solo cast for your sacred union partnership. In it, I'm going to share some really special ways to decondition hidden toxicity you might have in the way that you see your partnership, which is damaging to it, and to replace it with a vision that is inspiring and helps you get to excellence rather than hidden perfectionism, which is toxic and doesn't exist. I'm also going to be sharing 4 rituals that you can use starting today. There's a guide that you can find anywhere where there's like links around the podcast because we've got different platforms. And this will take you through 4 rituals that you can use to enhance your partnership. So this is using the power of gratitude, the power of safe communication, the power of intimate connection, and the power of erotic connection to optimize your relationship and have the best relationship ever. So just like you might do a morning ritual to get the most out of your day, you do relationship rituals to get the most out of your relationship. All right, let's talk sacred union, a really special kind of relationship where your union is a focus point of love and harmony and growth. And it's a center point of your life, a sanctuary that you come to over and over and over again. It nourishes you. And sacred implies that there's a spiritual dimension, a deeper dimension to how you relate to one another. And so usually sacred union happens when there's 2 people who are on some kind of spiritual journey or personal development path. Because if you meditate for long enough, or if you do breath work or ice baths or energetic practices, it's inevitable that you're going to want to feel your relationship through that lens, that the way that spirituality changes you will change the way that you see your partnership. So in the podcast today, I'm really going to talk to you about a particular way of looking at your relationship that is supremely helpful. And then I'm going to share the value and power of rituals. Rituals are practices that you do to enhance your relationship. So a ritual is a practice with a set pattern to it, a set number of steps that you do to optimize something. So if you do a morning ritual, it's to get the most out of your morning, right? So a relationship ritual is a practice designed to help you get the most out of your relationship. So I'm going to go over the 4 key rituals that are very easy to do, very accessible. You'll be able to take them right from this podcast and use them in your partnership, that are the most important for amplifying and enhancing a sacred union partnership. So the first thing I want to talk about is, how do you look at your partnership? And I call this with inspired realism. Now, this is very important because women especially, anyone can do this, but women especially do this, have a tendency to at first compare ourselves to a perfect vision of some woman who doesn't exist. Like, we literally make up a version of a perfect woman in our head, and then we compare ourselves to her. And this is toxic because you will always fall short compared to perfection, and perfection doesn't exist. So for those of you women listening right now, I invite you to notice if you've ever done this. So like when I was dating, I would compare myself to this vision of a woman who was like so stunningly gorgeous and so hilarious and so integrated and like with just the right amount of trauma to be interesting, but like not so much that it made her like psycho or toxic in any way, shape, or form. And she like somehow was like so good at cooking and making home. She was also like badass in her dharma. She was like a sex witch, but she was also like just like so kind and pure at the same time. And the most important thing about this woman was every man was after her. Like every man wanted to marry her. Every man wanted to date her. Every man was obsessed with her. And they all just like declared their love and eternal desire to be committed to her. And I literally compared myself to this woman for a long time. And then all of a sudden I was like, wait, what? What? I was like, have you ever met that woman? Like I've met some pretty amazing women in my life. I've met my women who like batted away marriage proposals, but I never met that woman. That woman is a figment of my imagination. So most of us do this, and most of us are somewhat unconscious that we do this. And this perfectionism is toxic because if you're comparing yourself to something that cannot and does not exist, you will always fall short. So it's a hidden way to hate yourself. It's a hidden way to criticize yourself. Alison Armstrong was the first teacher who really articulated that to me, where I was like, whoa, right? And then I realized that women tend to do that to their relationships. So I was doing that to both my potential partner or my partner, and then also my relationship. So for a while I was like, oh, I'm searching for someone who's like got oratory skills and he's like super inspiring and he's devastatingly handsome and he's also enlightened and he, sold his first 3 companies and like, but he has all this time to meditate and he loves nature and he's like primal in the bedroom, but also like monogamous, and he just like knows how to hold me in my trauma, but he like worships me as a queen. And like, it was just like, wait, like there are amazing men on this planet, but there's no perfect man. And if you're looking for the perfect one, everyone's always going to fall short. All of this is to say that anyone can do this, but women tend to do this specifically, which is we compare our relationship to the imaginary perfect relationship. And this is where fairy tales and Hollywood romance and things like that can actually be toxic to our partnership, because the perfect partnership doesn't exist. And I would know that better than almost anybody because I spend most of my days talking to people about their partnerships and the truth of their marriages. And I also have, I am close friends with some of the most like iconic couples, like couples that people really look up to, and not one of them is perfect. So I invite us to break down our idea of perfect. Now, men are slightly different in this regard. Men tend to, but you can never make, a full assumption about anybody of any gender, but men tend to project perfectionism, imagine perfectionism on a new thing. And that is also false because perfect doesn't exist. So if you're imagining that this new person or this exciting thing could somehow be perfect, right? That is also a toxic illusion because perfect doesn't exist. So we need to break down perfect and replace it with real, right? But what's happened when we've done that I've seen, is we've gotten really down on partnership, right? Marriage is a lot of work. I've heard some people say like, no couples are really happy, It's just like this long sludge and like, you're lucky if you make it to the grave, but my God, it was hard, So it's like we break down perfectionism and we somehow replaced it with this like, I don't know, like French existential, like everything is fucked kind of belief. And that doesn't work either, because what you believe is possible also tends to shape what you create and what you allow yourself to have. So we let go of perfectionism, replace it with realism, but we keep what I like to call inspiration. So that's where we get inspired or realism. All right, we're going to pause for just a moment and I'm going to invite you to join my email list. You might be like, email, but honestly, email is where I share my deepest teachings, my most personal stories, and my most outrageously good content. It's also where you can stay connected to all of the podcasts that I release and my programs where you can train more deeply with me. So if you want to join, head over to laylamartin.com and sign up with your best email address. I like the word inspiration because it literally means to be filled with spirit, to be filled with God. And one of the beautiful things about divine reality, about the inhale, right? Inspiration, is it gives you this right? Like anything is possible. And this part is true with relationships. There are very happy relationships. There are very happy relationships that are long-term. There are people who are having the best sex of their life 25 years into marriage. I know that because I've met them. I've worked with them. I've supported them to open that portal for themselves. And the reason I want to share this is if we get stuck in one realm or the other, either perfectionism or like dour despair, we can't actually hold the vision that is inspired and enhancing for our partnership. So it's very important to feel into what is divinely possible. And if you look into most spiritual traditions, there is this idea of sacred union, of a partnership between two souls that is elevated, that is profound, that is a legendary love story because of their union, because of the depth of their love, because of who they are as individuals. And so this I like to think of as the blueprint, the archetype for higher level partnership. And I find that this partnership tends to only happen when two people are doing spiritual practice or personal development, or my mom and my stepdad actually had their own version of this. And I saw them do it by taking full responsibility for their actions, learning to communicate beautifully, and choosing to love each other and celebrate their life together in really beautiful ways. And they had a very, very beautiful, but by no means perfect, 30-year partnership until he passed of cancer in 2017. And so this is the approach I want us to take. And so I invite you to notice, to literally check your thinking of where you might be comparing your partnership to something perfect, an imaginary perfect partnership, or where you might be projecting potential perfection on some new possibility, right? And both of those things are toxic. So if you notice yourself doing that, I invite you to take a deep breath and come back to reality, right? To see the reality of partnership. And I know so many happy couples, but everybody has a hard time. I don't know any couple that's been together longer than 3 years that hasn't had some kind of crisis, some kind of epic challenge, be it sexual, relational, emotional, right? That's just part of life. And to hold an inspired vision, meaning that what is the best version of us? What is the highest expression of our love, of our sex, of our partnership? What are we here to do? How can we grow together? How can we make every damn day count? And inspiration is always supported by action. So anywhere that you're inspired, if you're inspired in your career, if you're inspired in your fitness and your health, if you're inspired in your spiritual practice, right? If you're inspired in your spirituality, it is always backed by practice. You don't get anywhere just by being inspired in your career, right? You got to show up and get really good at it. You don't get anywhere just by being inspired by your health. You got to show up and practice like a lot, right? Same with spirituality. You don't just suddenly become spiritual one day. You practice, right? You sit and you meditate. You do the process to gain the gems and the wisdom and to achieve true mastery. So one of the things that we lack in our culture, and this will surprise no one, is not just education, right? Like instead of teaching us like random shit about algebra or whatever it is that we learn at school, right? Like the history of some random thing that happened, like, why not either instead of, or hopefully also, why did we not learn how to love? Like the key teachings of a thriving partnership, right? Like how to be safe in difficult emotional conversations with someone that you love, things like that, right? So, first of all, we didn't get that education. But second of all, not only did we not get that education, and one of the most important things in our life, our long-term romantic partnership, is just left to its own devices. But number two, we don't know the tools, the practices, what I call the rituals of getting the most out of our relationship. So if ritual bothers you as a word, think of it as a habit, think of it as a practice. But ritual isn't, I don't think anyone's offended by having a morning ritual. So have a relationship ritual. The same way that if you had a morning ritual, you would get the most out of your day. Do relationship rituals to get the most out of your love, right? And this is something that is very dear to me in my partnership with Babak. This is something that has changed the destiny of our love, but also meant the absolute most to us in terms of enhancing our sexuality, enhancing our love, enhancing our connection. And so, without further ado, these are 4 relationship rituals that I think are the easiest, the most accessible. So I got really advanced ones. You can learn those if you want in my program called the Tantric Mastermind. This is a program that me and Babak teach together. And it is a many, many months long container to go very, very deep in your partnership into Tantra and into the practices of sacred sexuality and into some of the deeper teachings around triggers and communication and self-responsibility so that you can really maximize your partnership. So Tantric Mastermind, if you're interested in learning from me in a deeper way, definitely check out that program. These rituals, I wanted you to be able to walk away from this podcast, be able to either listen to this with your partner and start using them right away, or to even be able to just tell your partner about the ritual. So there are 4 different categories. One is a gratitude category. One is a safe communication category. The other is an intimacy category. And the final one is an erotic category. So these are really, I consider these to be the 4 things that are very essential to continuously develop in any healthy, thriving partnership: gratitude, safe communication, intimacy, and erotic connection, right? So intimacy and erotic connection are slightly different in that intimacy can be an emotional, energetic, even intellectual connection. It can include sexuality, but it doesn't have to. An erotic connection is like we having sex, like we're engaging in like sexual pleasure. If you've wanted to learn sacred sexuality with your partner and deep dive into the most exquisite intimacy, I created the Tantric Mastermind with my beloved Dr. Babak Amen to be able to take you on the journey of a lifetime. This program includes 2 live retreats, one in a castle in England, one in the magical deserts of Sedona, so that you can learn sexual mastery and the art of the deepest intimacy and fall in love in the most magical ways together in these incredible locations. It's meant to be the education of a lifetime, but also the romantic adventure of a lifetime. If you're curious to learn more, head on over to laylamartin.com/tantric mastermind. So the gratitude ritual, the simplest form of the gratitude ritual is to do it at a set time or in a set experience every day. So this can either be the morning if you wake up and spend time in the morning together. This can be the evening if you go to bed together, or if you have something that you do regularly. So me and Babak have a walk on the beach that we do when we live in Australia. And so we will do it as we walk on the beach because we do that almost every day. Now in the gratitude ritual, this can literally take 2 minutes if you want. You can stretch it, you can do it longer than that, but 1 minute each. You can time yourself in the beginning if you want to just get a sense of about how long a minute is. It'll feel longer than you probably imagine. And you're going to share everything that you're grateful for and make sure to include at least something about your partner, something about your partnership, and then what you're grateful for in your life generally. The cultivation of gratitude in a relationship is one of the most important things. And if we don't actually pause and consciously create it, it doesn't necessarily just happen. So having a gratitude journal in the morning or having a gratitude practice is one of the scientifically proven ways to enhance personal happiness. Gratitude in relationships is one of the indicators of long-term success of a couple staying together. So when you do a simple gratitude ritual every single day, you're doing something amazing for your personal happiness, for the happiness of your partnership, and you're also like banking good vibes between the two of you, which does a lot for building goodwill, right? And when you have a lot of goodwill, then it's easier to forgive your partner if they make a mistake. It's easier to not get triggered. It's easier to keep building on the goodwill and have things get more and more amazing. So one of you will go for 1 minute and the other will go for a minute, and that's it. So you can either do that right when you wake up in the morning. If you wake up at the same time, you can do it when you go to bed at night. You could do it at the dinner table. If you've got kids, you can all do the gratitude ritual. Like, such a beautiful thing to do as a family. And again, remember at least one gratitude in there for your partner, at least one gratitude for your partnership. And then you can fill it. You could do more gratitudes than that for your partner or partnership, but at least one each. And then just the rest of the time, you can share what you're grateful for, anything and everything, every single day. So powerful. Now, the next one is a safe communication ritual. This is so important for a number of different reasons. Number one of the things that really stops a couple from being in love is when they stop talking, right? And I was talking to my mom about this the other day, and I was like, couples really need to talk to each other. And my mom was like, everybody knows that. Everybody knows you should talk to each other. But people stop talking to each other when they're not kind. When one of them or both of them are not kind, you just stop trying, right? So safe communication is about being in a contained ritual where you can say challenging things or really loving things and not get in a fight, not get triggered at each other. Trust that the container of this ritual will help you be open, and cultivating that on a regular basis, I say at least once a week, helps you get used to telling each other the truth, helps you keep up that container of really talking to each other about what matters. And it helps you cultivate a ritual of feeling safe in talking to each other. So this ritual I call fears, loves, and desires. And so you can do this in the shortest possible way. You can always make it longer if you want. 1 minute for each category, and you're each going to go. So the first is fears, and you're just going to share with your partner, what are you afraid of? And you really want to talk about, yes, in your life, but if there's anything that you're afraid of in your partnership, like for me, I'll be like, I'm kind of afraid of losing you, or I'm afraid that you won't love me anymore after I did X, Y, and Z, or I'm afraid that we haven't gone to therapy in a really long time, and that's so important to us. Like anything that you're afraid of. Now, here are the ground rules for this ritual. Number 1, you cannot interrupt your partner. Number 2, you do not start a fight or get triggered at your partner. Number 3, you don't bring it up like in an aggressive way later. So if in this, your partner says something that they're afraid of, it's totally fine to say, hey, that really touched me. Can we talk about that later in therapy? Or I've been thinking about this and I want to create a safe space for us to discuss it a little bit more deeply. Are you okay with that? But you don't go, oh my God, that thing you said in the ritual or anything like that, or just like bring it up 2 days later. If there's something that you want to discuss more, you ask about it very gently, and you ask about a time where you can discuss it. So you set a timer, minimum 1 minute. It can always be longer. You can go 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Minimum 1 minute. And the first one of you will talk and say, what are you afraid of? And then you're going to switch. And the other one of you will answer, what are you afraid of? Then you're going to do, what do you really want? So what do you really want? And again, you're going to talk about in your partnership, what do you really want? What do you really desire? You'll both go. And then finally, what do you love about me? And then finally, what do you love about your partner? and you're going to share, what do you love about your partner? So I love this about you. I love that about you. I love this about you. I love when you do this. I love when you do that. I love how you're this, right? So I am including a PDF guide down below. So if this was in any way confusing to you, you can check out that PDF guide and it will really make it clear how you do this ritual and how you can set it up with your partner. And even if it's a little clunky the first time, you'll get the hang of it so quickly because it really is simple. The next one is an intimacy ritual. This is one of my favorites. This will be terrifying for some of you, but trust me, it's one of the most beautiful things. If you're a little turned off by feeling like you're performing during sex in the kind of bad way, but you crave a much greater expression of your sexuality. Like you want to be so orgasmic and feel your pleasure so deeply and be in such devotion and intimacy with your partner. This is exactly what sacred sexuality teaches. It's a system that allows you to unwind the trauma and sex negativity that has caused us to shut down our bodies and our energy so that you can restore your greatest pleasure and your greatest erotic authenticity. I've combined all these teachings into a program called VITA Sacred Sexuality. You can do it month to month, but it's a year of content where you get to learn all of the sacred sexuality practices, like how to have an energy orgasm, how to do sex magic rituals on the full moon and the new moon to manifest your desires, and how to do deeper intimacy practices that allow you to connect with your beloved or call your next amazing partnership. If this is something that you're interested in, go ahead and check it out at laylamartin.com/VITA Sacred Sexuality. That's laylamartin.com/VITA Sacred Sexuality. So for this one is minimum 3 minutes. You can always go longer. And again, you're going to set a timer. Insight Timer, great app for all of this because you can set it for any length of time and it has these like sexy bells because the iPhone alarm is like not so sexy, but Insight Timer has like really beautiful like gongs and guitar sounds and things like that. And it's got a free version. And so you can set 3 minutes and it'll be like beautiful chimes rather than like By the Seaside, which is the iTunes phone bell or whatever alarm that like drives me nuts. It's like do, 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 do. In this, you are going to sit across from your partner comfortably. You're going to look into their eyes and you are going to breathe right into the center of your heart. So this is your spiritual heart, looking into your partner's eyes, breathing, and 3 minutes. You can play some music if you want, but you can also do it to silence. And what this does is it drops you into a connection outside of your mind. This is why it drops you into intimacy, right? So if you love connecting through the mind, then that previous ritual, right? The fears, loves, and desires will connect you through the mind. This allows you to connect through the heart. This allows you to connect in stillness, just looking into each other's eyes. If you do this before you make love, it's really powerful. You can even just do it in the evening. It resets your connection so powerfully. It opens your hearts to one another. It helps you feel more love. It just, like even just 3 minutes, you take that time, you will feel each other more deeply. You will treat each other differently. It's such a powerful but simple ritual. And the final ritual is an erotic ritual. So I really believe in doing regular practices to cultivate your sexual capacity. So this is a whole area of its own, right? Erotic mastery as a couple is so incredibly powerful to experience, right? It's mind-blowing how much pleasure and ecstasy you can feel with one another. And this is the, predominant chunk of what I teach to people is erotic rituals, like how to become sexually masterful with one another. I think one of the best erotic rituals is a pussy massage or a penis massage. So if you're in a heterosexual partnership, then you would give your partner a pussy massage and she would give you a penis massage. Or if you're in same sex, 2 penis massages or 2 pussy massages, right? However, it works for your partnership. But the idea with this is that you give your partner a set amount of time to just receive pleasure, to just be in healing if they need healing, to reconnect to their body. The reason this is so powerful is that sometimes jumping into doing a shared sexual practice can be overwhelming, intense. It's kind of too much for a lot of people when you're brand new to this, but laying back and receiving from your partner anybody can do that. In addition, there are 5 core sexual skills that will unlock your erotic abilities. So these are meditating, sounding, breathing, working with energy, and moving your body in a very specific way. Those skills are hard to learn just generally, and they're hard to learn with your partner in active intercourse, but they are much easier to learn when you're receiving. So if you're receiving a penis massage, it's a lot easier to be receiving a penis massage and learn sexual breathwork. It's a lot easier to receive a penis massage and actually work on meditating, like focusing on your sensations rather than being in a fantasy or checking out or being super goal oriented. So much of what we want to learn and the skills we need to be erotically masterful can be learned in these erotic rituals. And I do think pussy and penis massage are the absolute best ways to get started, right? They're advanced enough that you can have a mind-blowing experience. I can't tell you how many people have written in being like, oh my God, my man received a penis massage and he wept. He was blown away. He was like, holy shit, what's even like, this is so amazing. I've had men write me with those experiences, right? And everyone can have an amazing time receiving a pussy massage. It's so special to get this from your partner. So again, I will include 2 guided audios for penis and pussy massage. They used to be part of my Epic Lovers program, and I'm going to make them available to you as part of this podcast. And they are really powerful practices. So you can literally just pop the audio on and have your body-friendly massage oil all ready. Invite your partner into some sort of setup, have a comfortable space for them to lie down. Bonus points if you've got like candles and cool music playing. We'll add some suggested sexy playlists for you, but music's also very personal. And you can just literally be guided by the audio. So a couple of key points with a penis and pussy massage. 1, you're not trying to force your partner to have an orgasm. That would be a goal orientation. That's the opposite of the idea of receiving this, which is to just be present with your body. Counterintuitively, sometimes the most pleasure comes from not having a goal, from just relaxing and feeling and letting yourself feel whatever you're feeling. So that's really the idea. The other thing is to only give a penis or pussy massage if you can really do what's called hold space. That just means show the fuck up. I am present. I am not in a bad mood and like gonna start some shit with my partner. I can hold them if they cry or they feel a little blocked, right? Like I am here for them. I'm able to show up and not dominate it with my experience, but to show up for them to have the best possible experience. That's the mindset of offering a penis or pussy massage. So you only want to give that if you can be in that space. And we're not always in that space. So always make sure to check in and have the best time ever. So again, you can get that guide to these 4 rituals down below. It will walk you through them step by step, and also the links to the audio for the penis and pussy massage. And I really recommend just trying, if you can, 1, getting used to it, and then adding the next, and then adding the next, right? And you can just take them one by one if you want. So incorporate the gratitude ritual first, then go for the safe communication, then get yourself some intimacy ritual, and finally get yourself an erotic ritual. All right, have so much fun. Blessings on your partnership. I'm so excited for there to be more happy couples deeply in love who are also on the reality ride of choosing each other and having such extraordinary, inspired partnership while also being real about how true love is so multidimensional. And sometimes it's hard as shit. Sometimes it's the most beautiful thing you've ever experienced, but it will always, always, always be worth it. Thank you for listening to this Tantric Life. I am Layla Martin. This is the home for the realest conversations about sex, spirituality, polarity, conscious relationships, and all kinds of topics that help us live the absolute most incredible lives. Please check out the next episode. Please go ahead and leave your rating and review on Spotify or Apple or YouTube. It's so helpful when you do that. If you want to stay connected to me, the most helpful supportive thing you can do is to head over to laylamartin.com, sign up with your email address. That connects you to me if you want to study deeper with me, if you want to receive my deeper teachings. I do it predominantly via email. Finally, you can check me out on Instagram at the Layla Martin. And thank you so much for being here.